The black horse slapped its nose, spraying out misty heat, and digging the ground with one front hoof. This is the last battle. On horseback, Su Ting grabbed the reins in one hand and Chong Mukang in the other. His indifferent eyes reflected the battlefield. The icy snow melted, and clear water ran down from the steep rocks and gathered with the hot blood. The black horse bowed its head and drank the stream that had flowed on the ground. This place is less than 100 miles away from the capital city of Dawan. If you rush forward, you can reach the capital of Dawan within half a day. But the Su family can't fight anymore. The birds are exhausted and the bow is hidden. If there is no Dawan, what else is needed? What's more, the weeping soldier will win, and defeat is okay. To completely destroy Dawan, Dawan must resist with the power of the whole country. By then, Dayan will definitely lose 3,000 at his own expense, which is not worth it. The world daughter. The prince calls you back to the camp. Su Ting strangled his horse fiercely, and the dark horse raised its front hoofs, let out a loud neigh, and turned around, driving in the 15th year of Wenkai. Dayan defeated the kingdom of Dawan. The king of the town left Mafuta mountain and signed a covenant in Shangjiao city, which was called the Alliance of Shangjiao. Dawan professed to Dayan, and every year he paid 50,000 silver tributes, 2,000 Dawan horses, iron ore, beautiful jade, and Kunlun slaves. He did not offend the side for 30 years. The Shangjiao alliance was signed for 2 months, and the border has been completely stabilized. The streets have faded away from the murderous atmosphere, and the cries and fireworks rose together. When Su Ting came back from training, her father, the lord of the town's palace, stepped on small steps and walked in front of her, followed by 2 small waiters with low eyebrows. Han Ji straightened the collar of his daughter, frowned and said, "Your mother asked you to come back to see her in the study." Su Ting nodded, and the atmosphere at home suddenly became serious. "I don't know what she missed this morning, maybe the decree from above finally arrived." Su Ting returned to his room and quickly changed his clothes, then went into the study to meet his mother, the only king of Dayan, Su Sun from the town. Dayan Tai, the ancestors made the heroic royal family the king. Su Ting's grandmother held the Tai, the motherland was established, and the king of Zhenbian was specially appointed, and the 3 generations did not drop and waited to attack the noble. During the Xianhuang period, the vassal was cut, and since then, the different surnames have not been named kings, and the kings have no place, but because of the presence of Dawan, the king of the town has become the only exception. Up to now, the current His Majesty has succeeded to the throne for 15 years, and Su Sun, who took over the throne of the town and the command of the army from his mother, also has an heir who can bear the responsibility. Su Sun looked at his daughter with satisfaction, but did not show a trace on his face, and said solemnly, "Look at this." Su Ting took the imperial decree from his mother, unfolded it, and looked down to read it. The imperial edict: the emperor sympathizes with the hard work of the king of the border. Now the alliance of Shanggao has been signed, the border is done, and the king of the border is invited to return to Beijing. There are tens of thousands of gold and tens of thousands of pieces of silk, but precious gems are not remembered. Tinger, what do you think? Su Ting put away the imperial decree and said, "The king of the town has too much prestige at the border, and he has 400,000 soldiers. The sage is jealous. This sacred aim is expected." Su Sun nodded, and sighed a little. "The sage today is not the ancestor, and I am not your grandmother. Our Su family should also reduce the light." Fortunately, after this war, Dawan was unable to commit Dayan for 10 years, so there shouldn't be any major problems with any straw bag sent by your majesty to replace me. Su Sun walked over and patted Su Ting's shoulder, and said, "Prepare, in a few days, our family will move back to the capital." Su Ting, "Yes, mother." Su Ting returned to his yard, and the entire town's palace was in turmoil from the beginning. He needed to pack all kinds of luggage, tie it to the carriage, and set off for the capital. But these are all subordinates, as Su Ting, as the princely daughter of the town's palace, no one would let her do the work of these men's homes. Su Ting's father will direct these things in an orderly manner. Self-daughter, world daughter, look at what good things I bring back. A woman dressed as a small servant ran in holding a paper bag and eagerly asked her for credit. Su Ting accepted the call and inserted the long wooden warehouse in his hand back into the weapon rack and sat on the stone bench next to it. Lu Tang immediately handed her a sweat-wiping veil, and after wiping the sweat from her face and neck, Su Ting poured herself a cup of tea, listening to Lu Feng gloriously admiring the bread in her hand. "Master, this is the delicacy that came out of the capital. I heard that it is popular in the capital. No matter what the dignitaries are, they are eating it." Su Ting raised his eyebrows lightly and took a bite of the butter bread that Hong Maple handed over. Hong Maple immediately shared another butter bread to Lu Tang. He also bit one of them, and exclaimed as he ate, "Master, you said why there are so many good things in the capital. It is said that this cream bread was also invented by Yun's Hang restaurant. It is really amazing. The shaved ice and milk tea were also invented by their restaurant last year." An unmarked smile appeared at the corner of Su Ting's mouth. Why was it so powerful? Of course, it was because of the traversers. In fact, Su Ting is also a traverser. 2 years ago, she was still living in the 21st century. She was born in red and decided to enlist in the army after being admitted to college. Unexpectedly, her boyfriend and her best friend would become a member of the army. Rape, green her together. Su Ting immediately beat the scumbag and decisively announced that he had broken up. Because he was in a bad mood, he was racing on the Huanshan road. He didn't expect to encounter another drunk racing bike and both fell off the Huanshan road. The other party Su Ting also knows, because that car is too ostentatious, Lu's Hylan, an equally maverick woman. Since seeing the soap for the first time, Su Ting has concluded that the other party, like himself, has also crossed. However, Su Ting is a person who has been rolling in the barracks and does not have such high demands on life. Her time is spent more on improving bow crossbow weapons and engaging in explosives drugs, otherwise this time Dian and Dewan's the war will not be so great. It's just that the bow crossbow explosive drug, as a military secret, is destined not to be promoted like soap shaved ice, so Su Ting is not as famous as Lu's Hylan. For this reason, Su Ting already knew the identity of Lu's Hylan's crossing, but Lu's Hylan knew nothing about Su Ting. That's good. Although she can adapt to any difficult environment, no one will refuse to live comfortably at all. Su Ting is unwilling to expose herself, so she is happy to see what Lu's Hylan does. Su Ting ate the bread in a few bites while putting away all his thoughts. She is very fortunate to be able to come back to life in this magical female venerable world, because a scumbag indirectly lost his life and it was a shame. Now she comes to this world where the sexes are completely reversed. Men cling to women and women control all the initiative. If she falls in love with someone, she will love him forever. Have you collected your luggage? Su Ting said, when you get to the capital, you can't eat enough food. Lu Tang said blankly, Master, don't carry me, only Hong Feng is greedy. Pretending to be annoyed, Hong Feng rushed to Lu Tang and shouted, All right, Lu Tang. You have the ability to just don't eat my bread. The two squabbled and fought each other instantly. The author has something to say, I secretly post while there is no one, hehe, you need to know when reading the article, female respectable boy, strayed little cutie hurriedly ran away, I am not responsible for it. On the day of departure, more than 10,000 people from Dingliang city came to see them off, and the carriages of the prince's mansion in the town were packed with more than 20 drivers, forming a long motorcade. Sukzun, the king of the town, took 2,000 soldiers to him. Because the number of legal guards for the king was 2,000, she brought no more than one and no less, so as not to cause any criticism. With more than 20 horse-drawn carriages and 2,000 soldiers, it took a full hour for the team to walk out of Dingliang. After traveling on the road for more than half a month, they finally reached the capital from Dingliang. When the king of the town came back to Beijing, the maiden Yan Yunchen personally led a courtesy officer to greet him. At the Yunchangzhi restaurant in Beijing, which had recently risen to fame, Lu's Highland's little servant came to Cai and asked with a bitter face, "Miss, the king of town. Jing, why don't you go to see it? That's the king of the town. It's said that Suzaku Avenue is all surrounded, and it's too tight." Lu's Highland knocked on the fan on the lower frame of the wooden window disdainfully, and thought, "The king of the town, you can't end well when you listen. It's too late to stay away, so you want to get up. Miss, what kind of person do you think the Wang Shinv of the town is like? I heard that she is superb martial arts, leading her troops to chase the remnants of Dewan for hundreds of miles, is a great woman." Laike said with dazzling eyes. "Yes, any woman who doesn't worship such a woman who screams and angers horses and has repeatedly made military exploits, who is so far away from the capital, but the name of the prince in the town is more loud than many noble women in the capital. The king of Zhenbian has become old, and Liang will not see a white head since ancient times, but the people of Dian are very at ease. The king of Daochen has a daughter like this, and he can protect Dian for 100 years. Lu's Highland said in his heart, in the thousands of years of history of the Dazonghua family, how many generals who have been able to achieve success. Pity these people, unlike her, who has been influenced by the culture of conspiracy and political struggle by the big flower cultivators for thousands of years, and they don't even understand this. Lu's Highland looked at her little servant sympathetically. Laike was inexplicable. "Miss, why do you look at me like this? Is there any dirt on my face?" She touched her face suspiciously. Lu's Highland immediately knocked Laike's head with a fan, and stood up and said, Go to Master Mo." Laike screamed, followed aggrievedly, and couldn't help complaining, "Miss, I don't understand you anymore. Mr. Du is so virtuous and beautiful, and he is still the princess. Why do you have to divorce, but in the end you pursue a ugly what about Salt, the son of a publicity businessman? Lost your identity more?" Lu's Highland suddenly turned around, drew a fan on Laike's face, and warned, "Laike, if this is the case, don't let me hear it a second time. Lord Mo will be my true husband in the future. No matter how good Princess Du is. Compared with him, I am also Firefly and Hao-Yu in my heart. If you don't know, I don't lack a sensible boyfriend." Laike immediately knelt down and racked his brains to search for the words of his previous master's praise of young Master Mo, and hurriedly said, "Miss, it is a slave who is evil. Young Master Mo is independent like a bamboo, and the breeze is bright and breezy, which is rare in the world of Guangfengjiu. Man and Miss are born together. It's pretty much the same. If you let young Master Mo hear you, I'll feed you the dog. The little one knows. The little one knows." Lu's Highland nodded in satisfaction, gave the person who was kneeling on the ground in disgust, and said, "Get up." "Thank you, miss, thank you, miss." Laike got up and couldn't help wiping the cold sweat on his head. The prince greeted him, and Su Ting dismounted with her mother to salute. The prince immediately helped Su Suan, the king of the town, and Su Ting straightened his body. The king of the town has defeated Dewan this time, and he decided to join Gao's alliance to promote my Dian national prestige. In fact, I am the Great Wall of Dian. The lady said kindly and earnestly, "Master Su, the mother emperor is already waiting for you in the palace. It's been a long time." Su Suan immediately put his hands in a salute towards the palace, and said loudly, "The minister is terrified, and is greatly loved by your majesty." The maiden waited for her to show her loyalty, and said, "Master Su, let's go." Turning on the horse again, the maiden also learns to ride and shoot, and also rides on the horse. In order to show her courtesy to the meritorious minister, she also stands side by side with Su Ting and Su Suan. Su Ting almost grew up on horseback. The heroic and martial artist is extraordinary, and even the maid is inferior to her temperament. Although Yan Yunchen has been named a prince, it does not mean that she is sitting securely. In addition to the queen, there is also an emperor and the queen who fight against the court, and the emperor also has a queen. The emperor Yan Yuntung was highly appreciated by the emperor. Therefore, if the king of Zhenbian can be the first to win over the newly returned to Beijing, it will have a great effect on stabilizing her position. So the maiden had a cordial dialogue with Su Ting, asking a lot about border crossings. But the Su family didn't stand in line. Su Ting knew that the Su family must be the emperor's hardcore loyal minister. In the position of the king of the town, it was like walking on a cliff. The Su family would not express any particularity to any emperor. His words are serious. As De Yan's military commander, this is just a matter of his own. The Su family's daughter should do her best for De Yan, and Ma Ji's body is shrouded. Su Ting said. Entering the palace, the emperor was already sitting on the dragon chair, and the female officers shouted, "Su Sun, the king of the town, has seen." Su Ting followed Su Sun into the hall to salute the emperor. This was the first time Su Ting saw the Empress Dian. After she was flat, she only glanced down and looked down. The ministers could not look directly at Tianyan, which was disrespectful. The Emperor Feng was threatening, and his body was enveloped with a strong oppressive force. On the contrary, Su Ting didn't notice her appearance at all, only remembering that she was a woman with a serious face. Su Sun performed the military commander's salute, half kneeling, raising his hands and returning the military talisman to the town. The emperor satisfactorily looked at the military talisman presented by the female officer and motioned to the female officer to declare. The female officer took out the imperial decree and read it out. Almost all of it was the emperor's reward to the king of the town. Unfortunately, Su Sun was already unqualified, so the emperor could only give the mansion and the rare treasures. This Su Sun and Su Ting knelt and accepted the order. "Thank you, Lord Longjun." The Zhenbian king's mansion personally bestowed by the emperor was repaired by the Ministry of Industry when the Su family was still in Suizhu. After the Su family arrived in the capital, they could move in immediately. Su Ting's father, Han Ji, commanded the servants to unload the things from the car in a hurry, and then put them in each yard one by one. On the gate, the plaque of the town's palace had already been hung up. It is ridiculous that the king of the town is not there, but no one in the entire capital dares to despise the Su family and the palace of the town. Su Ting still has no official position in her body. What position is given to the mother and daughter of the Su family? It is a headache to come to Wen Kitty, but Su Ting is not in a hurry at all, just let her relax for a while. The town's palace gradually returned to order, and it was considered to have settled down in the capital. At the same time, many social interactions began. The invitations and greetings flew into the town's palace like snowflakes. When the king of the town returned to Beijing, almost the entire capital was staring at the Su family, each with its own plans. In the emperor's harem, the queen went to greet the queen dowager. The queen dowager personally picked her up when the emperor was the prince. Therefore, since she married into the East Palace, she has been very close to the queen dowager. The queen mother believed in Buddha, and there was a red sandalwood Buddha statue in the palace with red sandalwood beads on her hands. He has grown a lot of white hair on his head, and he has not powdered his face for a long time. He has a peaceful face and is dressed in plain clothes, just like a peaceful and kind Buddha. Honor is here. The queen hurried up to support the hand of the queen mother, and helped the queen mother sit down on the couch next to her. "Uncle, here I am." The queen mother touched the Buddha beads and asked, "Did the king of the town back to Beijing yesterday?" "Empress, yes, it's the person Chenner went out to meet him in person." "Queen mother, I heard that the king of town has a woman, right?" "Queen, yes, the king's daughter of the town is called Su Ting." "Queen mother, the king of the town is mighty, and his daughter must be a great weapon." "Queen's queen, my uncle is right. When your majesty comes back, he also praises the majesty and grandeur of the princes of the town, and the princes of the town are not worried." The Queen Mother nodded in satisfaction and said, "That's good. In this case, Honor, how about pointing Wenhui a wife?" The Queen was stunned. Wenhui Princess, the son of Min Jieking, Yanqiu. At that time, the head of Min Jieking married Du Gan, the official minister, and gave birth to a son called Du Xian, who was later named Wenhui Princess by the Queen Mother. The Queen Mother murmured, "This child's father died young and lived a bitter life. Ever since Min Jie married and died in depression, the Ai family has always felt that they owe you Taijun Mei. Wenhui has been delayed until 19 now, and the Ijia is thinking about finding him a good wife, so as not to be wasted in the rest of his life." "Well, what's wrong? I will discuss with your majesty when I go back. The author has something to say. The marriage is settled, he. In spite of this, it was 2 days before the Empress actually told the Emperor about this matter. In these 2 days, the Emperor stayed with the Emperor. The Emperor is here, and the Queen, like the Emperor, did not go to the Emperor's place at all 2 days ago, dignified and affectionately ate with the Emperor. The former son, I went to greet the Empress Dowager's elders. The Empress Dowager was thinking about Wenhui referring to a wife. Didn't the king of the town return to Beijing? Her prostitutes are young and promising. Your Majesty, do you think this marriage is complete?" Emperor Wenqi gave a hum, and it took a long time to remember who Wenhui was. It turned out to be the Princess Wenhui, the son of Du Gan, the official minister. At that time, Emperor Wenqi seized his protagonist. In order to tie up Du Gan, the Queen Mother came forward to take Mei Gijun's son Min Jieking. The Lord married Du Gan, and as a victim of the marriage, the Lord Min Jieking contributed to Emperor Wenqi's Didan Datung. Later, the Lord Min Jieking had a bad life, and Emperor Wenqi felt a little guilty. "Speaking of which, this child has to call me an aunt. The prince of the town is a good daughter. She is just right for him. When I return, I will ask someone to give a marriage decree." Emperor Wenqi is now very jealous of the Zhenbian king, otherwise he will not be recalled to the capital. If the princess who is related to the royal family is given to the Zhenbian king's daughter Su Ting, the Su family will become royal in-laws, and Wenqi can rest assured. In the eyes of the emperor, the first consideration in everything is the overall situation of imperial power. Regardless of the first intention of the Queen Mother, Du Xian still followed his father's footsteps and became a of political marriage. In the second early dynasty, the official position of the Zhenbian king was finally determined under the close attention of the Begwan. The emperor ordered the Zhenbian king to be stationed in the 12 guards in the capital and appointed Su Ting, the queen's daughter of the Zhenbian, as the commander of the Zikan Guardian. The 12 guards of the capital guarded the capital, the last pass in order to resist the invasion of the capital by foreign enemies. The patrol department is responsible for the security of the capital, command envoys and troops to guard the stability of the emperor's feet. In this way, the emperor still trusts the king of town. About the imperial decree, the various thoughts of the hundreds of officials came alive, but their faces were calm, and the waves of the court were hidden under the calm waves. Su Ting knelt down to give thanks. She knew that this was the emperor's reassurance for the Su family, indicating that the emperor did not doubt the Su family, and still dared to give it reuse. Su Ting had anticipated this during a close conversation with her mother Su Sun's study, and was not surprised. But Su Ting did not expect that the emperor announced another will before she thanked her for standing up. "I heard that Princess Wenhui, the son of the official department, is still waiting in the boudoir." Du Gan, the official secretary, stood up immediately and said, "Return to your majesty, Wenhui, the son of the minister, is indeed not yet married." Emperor Wenqi, "In that case, I see the young and talented daughter of the town's prince who is young and beautiful, she just happens to be married to a good age, and the lord of Wenhui is my nephew, so how about we call them the marriage?" Du Gan said immediately, "Thank your majesty Longjun." Emperor Wenqi turned to Su Ting, "What does Su Zioiking think?" No matter how many unexpected surprises there were in his heart, Su Ting's face remained unchanged and said, "Thank you, Longjun." In the dynasty of the 100 officials, congratulations with Su Suan, mother and daughter, Su Ting, and Du Shangshu. Su Suan smiled back, "Tongzi, Tongzi." Su Ting also smiled, not allowing people to see any attitude towards this gift of marriage. Du Gan was also the same over there. They were all old foxes, and no one would reveal the slightest untimely. As soon as Su Ting and her mother Su Suan returned home with their front feet, the imperial decree came on the back foot. Su Suan and Su Ting's father took the decree together. The little servant in the front yard crackled and knelt to the ground. After the female official announced the imperial decree, Su Ting took the imperial decree and stuffed the female official a bag of naked gold and silver ingots before sending them out of the town's palace cheerfully. Han Ji is very sad. His daughter has indeed reached the age to marry. When returning to Beijing this time, he also had the thought of showing his daughter a good look, but this suddenly gave him a marriage. I don't know how that son is, if he is a good one. Su Ting hurriedly comforted his father and said, "The son of the official secretary is still the nephew of the sage, so don't worry about it, father." Su Suan also comforted his husband, "Tinger is right. You are right here, so don't worry." Han Ji is still frowning, "Then I have to look at the day quickly, and I have to start preparing for the 3 courtesy and 6 appointments." He replied, "No, I have to find someone to inquire about the Du family's son." At the same time, in Du Mansion, Du Gan got out of the carriage and walked into the house, and her Zhenjun Bai Fang immediately greeted him. Du Gan stopped Bai Fang from trying to change her official uniform, and said, "Wait a moment, when there is an imperial decree, go and call out the heir." Bai Fang asked hurriedly, "What sacred decree?" Du Gan, "The imperial decree of marriage." Bai Fang was pleasantly surprised, "Is the imperial decree of marriage for Miaoan? Which girl?" Du Gan knew that Bai Fang had always ignored the son left by the deceased Yanqiu, but she didn't expect that she would directly say Xian's name, and Bai Fang thought of her son Miaoan for the first time. "What are you thinking about? Xian is 19, shouldn't you, the lord, think of him first? This imperial decree is for Xian." Du Gan couldn't help but scolded. Bai Fang's eyes flushed immediately, and Chu Chu complained pitifully, "What do you mean by my wife? Miaoan is my son. Shouldn't it be him who thinks of my father first? Marriage given by the Holy Spirit is a lifetime honor. Which dad doesn't expect his son to have it? I love our son too, why are you so angry? If it weren't for a marriage decree, why did brother shield you from me? It's fair to say that he snatched your favor for so many years?" Du Gan immediately relented and held the person in her arms. She would always love him for such a charming appearance. What's more, she was forced to marry Min Jiaking and wronged his righteous husband. Now she should do her best to make up. Okay, we Miaoan can marry a better wife." This time the saint gave the marriage to Xian. "You also know that the Queen Mother is thinking of him, let alone he is 19. Bai Fang acted like a baby, can you blame me then? His reputation was ruined by the Lu family's resignation. He didn't look down on me as much as I showed him, and it made me innocent inside and outside. This stepfather is wrong, and he is still complained." "I know, you have worked hard." Bai Fang asked, "Which daughter is it?" Du Gan, the king of Zhenbian, returned to Beijing a few days ago, didn't he? It's the daughter of the king of Zhenbian. Bai Fang frowned. He turned out to be a martial woman, so he didn't want his son to marry. "Okay, I'll call Xian out." After a while, the female official declaring the decree came. The emperor's emperor said, "I heard that Du Gan, the son of the official minister and the son of Min Jiaking, the son of Wenhui princess, is virtuous, generous, and outstanding. Now the king of the town is 18 years old. Heroic, handsome, and martial, the two can be created by heaven and earth. I am the beauty of being a beautiful woman. We specially appointed Wenhui princess to be the king of town, and choose the auspicious day to get married. Chin this thank you, Lord, long live my emperor. Du Xian, who received the imperial decree, was completely deceived. He had heard of the king of the town when he returned to Beijing. The people talked about how handsome the king's daughter is. He also listened to it and led the commander to attack Dewan and take it straight. Many noble sons in Shuchen and Beijing wanted to marry this hero of Dayan. It's not that he hadn't secretly thought about it, but he was a divorced son, a husband no one wanted, 1 year older than the prince of the town. If the palace of the town was showing his husband, how could he see it in him? Du Xian was still in a trance. Du Miaoyan kept running to Du Xian's yard to ridicule. How glorious is the gift of marriage to a man's family! In the past, his wife's family paid more attention to it. In the future, if the wife wants to accept a child, he must also take special consideration of Zhenjun's wishes. He didn't look at himself on the husband, he was worthy. He was just a husband who was divorced and no one wanted. Hao Yin and Yang is the third brother. This imperial decree is not yours, and I am also the one who married the queen of Zhenbei, not you. Du Xian was upset for a while and even forgot to be a little boy, and went straight back. Du Miaoyan flushed her small face with anger, stretched out her scallion jade finger to point to Du Xian, wanted to scold but couldn't get mad. You don't forget, you're just a money loser who has been returned. Miss Lujia would rather chase after a humble, ugly, unsalted merchant who would look down on you. Which woman would pick up the broken things that others don't want? You are proud now. I heard that the prince of the town kills people all the year round and the blood is terrifying. If she knows that she is forced to marry a torn shoe worn by someone else, guess she will break your neck on the spot. Snapped. Du Miaoyan's face was beaten to the side, and Du Xian's hands trembling on his side. Chastity is the most important thing for men in the world. There have been many rumors about the Lu families retiring from marriage. If this is the case, how will he treat himself in the future if it is still spread from Du mansion? How can the son of the Du family say such unbearable words? If it is spread out, let outsiders think about my son of the Du family's upbringing. The eldest brother is the father. I am teaching you instead of my father. Du Miaoyan turned her face fiercely, her eyes were red, and his anger made him look more beautiful, but Du Xian only felt that his face was hateful. How dare you hit me? I'm going to tell Dad. Du Miaoyan covered her face and ran away. Du Xian fell on the stool, his face pale. His little servant Channer was anxious to cry, "Young master, what should I do?" "Third young master must go to tell the Lord." Du Xian comforted him, it's okay, this matter is with me. Not to mention the imperial decree today. Even if he wants to insult me, he has to hesitate. Du Xian muttered to himself. Sure enough, Du Miaoyan was with his father after a while, and this Du Fu Zhenjun came menacingly behind him. Bai Fang also brought 2 big waist rounds, and came with a woman-like father. Du Xian, hello, you dare to beat your brother before you marry into the Zhenbian palace. If I don't teach you, others think that young Master Du is such an arrogant, unscrupulous brother. Du Xian knew that he was very emotional today. In normal times, he was absolutely unwilling to provoke this family. He was not happy for his biological mother, and he would suffer anyway, and he would not be quiet. But things have developed into this, and he can't help but want to calm down. Before the Lord came to scold me, why didn't he ask the third brother what he did? Du Xian turned to look at his little servant Channer, and said, "You tell the Lord, what did the third son say?" Channer knelt down with a thump, and didn't dare to look up at the person, and said pantingly, "The third son said, that the second son was divorced, it is no one wants the broken shoes. Also, the king of the town. The world daughter will definitely break the second son's neck. Lord, how can the third brother say such things as the Du family son? I asked outsiders to listen and thought that my Du family son was such a rude and frivolous son. It doesn't matter that I have been given a marriage, but the third brother himself, and the fourth brother, how can the sixth brother be good? What's more, the third brother's rumors about the prince's daughter of the town will probably provoke the town's prince's dissatisfaction with Du's house and embarrass her mother. I was wrong to beat the third brother, but I was also in a state of urgency at the time. It was also for the sake of the third brother. I also asked the Lord to be considerate. Bai Fang gave Du Miaoyan a fierce look, hating iron and steel. Du Miaoyan was guilty of being seen by him, and she couldn't help but hide back. You are used to being savvy, how do I know that you are not making up a lie to bully Miaoyan? All the people in this yard talk about it, besides your minion, who else has heard the third son say such foul language? The servants in the yard knelt down and said in one mouth, report to the Lord. No, we haven't heard San Gongzi say that. Du Xian's heart was suddenly extremely sad, and this was his situation in Du Mansion. I think you are a big man. Although your father died early, he wouldn't be able to say such unbearable words. I'm afraid this little hooves is provoking the master. Bai Fang pointed to the cicada who was kneeling on the ground, and said viciously in a pitiful voice, come here, give me your hand. Just after the imperial decree, he praised this money-losing goods for his virtuous, generous, and outstanding appearance. He now teaches him whether it is not to slap the saint in the face, but can't beat the master or the minion. He doesn't believe this little hoof, he doesn't feel bad. The two old fathers with fierce faces responded yes. One after the other, they were about to come over and stand up Cicada's mouth. Cicada was terrified, tears rolled in his eyes, and desperately said, it's not me the son, save me. Du Xian bit his lip, and at the moment his slap fell, he couldn't help shouting, stop. Bai Fang gave a hum, and looked at Du Xian maliciously. Seeing that the situation is not good, a person suddenly ran in from outside and reported, Master, there is someone in the Queen Mother's palace, and the second son is going to enter the palace. Du Xian was overjoyed immediately and said quickly, Cicada, what are you doing in a daze? Don't you hurry up and help me enter the palace to meet the Queen Mother. Channer wiped her tears and quickly got up and stood beside Du Xian, gently supporting Du Xian's forearm. Su Ting was caught by his father as soon as he returned from the inspection department. Han Ji was so anxious that he said in a frown, Tinger, we can't marry this husband. Su Ting was a little helpless. This was the emperor's marriage. There was a reason not to marry, but she was very patient with her parents. Su Ting comforted Han Ji and sat down on the chair next to him, and asked, what's wrong? Is there anything that young Master Du is not satisfied with? Not to mention this is okay, when Han Ji is about to explode, his daughter, the daughter of the town's palace, will inherit the first-class prince's noble daughter in the future. How could it be possible to marry a prince who was abducted by another family and become his town? What is Bian Wangfu? Tinger, listen to me, that son of the Du family is not only older than you, he is also a person who has been divorced. We don't want this kind of son from the Su family. Su Ting breathed a sigh of relief when she heard the first half of the sentence. Her body is only 18 years old. According to the habits of the female-esteemed world, the man is smaller than the woman, then the other party is not a minor. How could she be able to get her underage? But when she heard the second half of the sentence, she couldn't help but frown slightly and was divorced. What happened? Father, as the saying goes, it's a blessing for a male junior to hold gold bricks. It's a blessing to marry the son. As for the divorce, it must be an outside rumor. The official Du's official book, the Du family's son is dignified. To be able to tolerate resignation should be nothing more than the two negotiated dissolution of the marriage contract. The sage personally pointed out that marriage, a good relationship is natural, the Du family must be good. Father, don't worry. Even so, Han Ji is still a bit dissatisfied and worried. Marrying a son who has had a marriage contract like this will inevitably make people look at the jokes of the town's palace. His daughter deserves the best. Su Ting smiled and continued to comfort his biological father, who dares to laugh, respect and face are earned by women, not men. I am the daughter of the royal palace in the town, doesn't Dad believe in her daughter? Han Ji smiled, with his own amorous expressions, gentle and loving. Daddy can't tell you, so let's do it, let me believe that he is a good one. The gods give us marriage and we cannot refuse. If it is not a good marriage to enter the door, father is the master. Let me give you a few lovely servants. Su Ting did not refute, saying, then father, I will go back to the courtyard first. Han Ji, go back. Back in his yard, Su Ting changed his clothes, brought Lu Tang and ordered, go, look up about the Du family. Lu Tang, yes, master. The author has something to say, I really want them to meet soon, haha. Thanks to the little angel who voted for me or irrigated the nutrient solution during 201912041838:26 2019120621:25:15 Thanks to the little angel who cast the mine, Nan Zia Bibai 1, thank you very much for your support, I will continue to work hard. The Queen Mother lives in Yangshao Palace, and the current saint is a filial daughter. Yangshao Palace is built magnificently and there are cranes in the palace. However, because the Queen Mother likes Buddha and quiet, Yangshao Palace is remote, and the long road is lined with high palace walls, and it took a long time for one or two ladies to walk by. Du Xian was led by an old slave in the Queen Mother Palace and entered the Yangshao Palace to meet the Queen Mother. Although the Yangshao Palace is majestic, the furnishings inside are very elegant and simple. The colors are dull and light, and it looks a bit dusky. Du Xian met the Queen Mother and hurriedly saluted, Wen Hui has seen the Queen Mother. The Queen Mother eagerly helped Du Xian up, looked at it with loving eyes, and kept saying, good boy, all grown up like that. Come here, sit down with Ai's family and talk. Du Xian immediately assisted the Queen Mother and sat on the couch. His little servant had never seen the big scene. This time he entered the palace to see the Queen Mother and did not dare to lift his head, and kept standing behind Du Xian step by step. Only Wanyo, Karing, looked at the Queen Mother and was extremely dissatisfied. The Queen Mother grasped Du Xian's hand, and the more she looked at her, the more satisfied she became. The kindness in her eyes almost overflowed, well, she looks more like your grandfather. Du Xian's grandfather, Tai Junmei, was a beautiful harem back then. The Queen Mother and him supported him in the sinister harem and pushed the current emperor to the upper position. The Queen Mother has only one daughter today, but his daughter is not only his daughter, but also the emperor of the kingdom of Dayan. She has long since admired him as before, so now the Queen Mother looks at Du Xian like her own grandson. Our family Wenhui is so beautiful and knowledgeable, I think the palace in the north of town will definitely like it very much. Du Xian blushed immediately. The Queen Mother looked at him and said sadly, my child, I have suffered for you these years. The Ai family does not want to protect you, but you have not yet come out of the cabinet, and you still have to discuss life in the backyard of the Du mansion. Dare you understand how Bai Fang will talk to you in private? Du Xian, I know all about it. Don't be sad for the Queen Mother. The Queen Mother's eyes condensed, but it's different now. The Emperor has given you a marriage. You will soon be married into the Zhenbian Palace, and the Ijia will protect you. Du Xian, thank you, Queen Mother, I have always been fine with your concern, and I have not been wronged. The Queen Mother patted Du Xian's hand comfortably, good boy. At this time, June came later, and he looked around Du Xian several times and praised, this is Minjia's son, he looks really like your father, and beautiful. The Queen Mother was very happy to hear. Du Xian hurriedly saw the ceremony, the Queen Wanan. Queen, you don't need to be polite, you can call me uncle even if you call me Du Xian, uncle. The Queen smiled like a flower, turned her head and looked at the Queen Mother and said, look, uncle, our Wenhui is so good. Then she said to Du Xian softly, you can rest assured that you will marry the Queen Mother of Zhenbei Palace this time. I will add makeup to you and ensure that you will be married well. Du Xian didn't dare to defy, as long as he shouted, "Thank you, uncle." Afterwards, I had dinner in the Queen Mother's palace. The Queen Mother ordered Du Xian to return to Du Mansion. Before she left, the Queen Mother recruited a kind-faced old slave and gave it to Du Xian, saying, "Anqing has been with the Lamentation family for decades. Now, the AI family will let him serve you, and marrying into the palace is no better than another family. The petty lord of the Du Palace can't teach you any rules at all." Du Xian was very grateful. He now has no one to use in Du Mansion except Chan'er. The Queen Mother's hand is nothing short of giving charcoal. Then the Queen Mother called two little waiters, one was called Shukin and the other called Shuki, and they were also given to Du Xian. In the eyes of the Queen Mother, the cicada next to Du Xian was not good at all. Chan'er looked at Shukin Shuki who was following Du Xian extremely wronged, and the hand supporting Du Xian tightened. Sitting in the carriage, Chan'er's eyes flushed with grievance, and she asked cowardly, "My son, the two brothers are here, will you stop Chan'er in the future?" Du Xian now has mixed thoughts in his heart, only patted Chan'er's hand gently, and said, "No, you have been with me for so long, why would you not want you, don't think about it." Then he continued to immerse himself in my thinking. Du Xian is not an ordinary innocent son. He has spent so many years discussing life in the Du Mansion. He is always aware of his words and colors. He likes to read. Every time he reads, he has his own insight. If he is a woman, he can enter the court. He knew that if the Queen Mother really had some love for him, the Queen would not know how genuine he was. Now the competition between the prince and the four princes is fierce. The king of the town's return to Beijing attracts the attention of the entire capital. Any prince wants to win, and the queen must also want to get close to him. Let him blow the pillow wind of the prince of the town's palace, let the daughter of the world stood in the camp of the maiden. However, given the situation of the Zhenbian palace, the Zhenbian king had better not stand in line, but be a pure minister loyal to his majesty. Du Xian's heart was suddenly extremely frightened. This gift of marriage was mixed with too many political factors. Would the king's daughter of the town really like him? Still more disgusted with the trouble he brought. Seeing Du Xian's perfunctory expression, Chan'er felt even more aggrieved, but he dared not speak any more. He knew he was useless, and was really afraid that Shukin Shuki would take the place beside Du Xian. Finally, I'm about to get out of my head, and can accompany the son to marry into the palace. Why is the Queen Dowager fortressing in such two pesky little waiters? Cicada's hostility towards Shukin Shuki was established from this moment. Lutang is a good hand in search of information, and soon found out all of Du Xian's information, especially the marriage contract between Du Xian and Luz Hylan. The marriage contract between Du Xian and Luz Hylan was set when he was a child. At that time, Du Xian's father was still alive, and he and Luz Hylan's father Wei Rongrui were very good friends. At that time, Yan Qiu felt that his body was gradually deteriorating, and I was afraid to live. Not to see Du Xian grow up to marry. As for the Du family, after he died, he would definitely help Baifang become the lord quickly, he had already seen through it. The title of the princess and the good relationship he had set up since childhood, although Yan Qiu died in depression, he really loved his son and paved the way for his son as much as possible. When Luz Hylan grew up, he became a sensual dude, but Du Xian only learned to be outstanding and intelligent. Before many people said that Luz Hylan was not worthy of Du Xian. Even Du Xian's father He Rongrui thought that Du Xian was a flower for marrying his little daughter. Insert it on the cow dung. But Du Xian never thought that he would not want to see Luz Hylan and would retire. Unexpectedly, 2 years ago, Luz Hylan and the person who snatched the Warren were knocked out, and when he woke up, he turned from a dandy into a business genius, invented the soap and shaved ice, and opened a house on the cloud. Jin is praised by everyone. Luz Hylan, who woke up, insisted on retiring his marriage with Du Xian, and later ran after the son of the merchant, the son of the Mo family. People completely forgot how Lus Hylan was not worthy of Du Sien back then. They mocked Du Sien for even an ugly and unsalted businessman. The sons are incomparable, and he does not hesitate to speculate and arrange him with the most malicious. After reading these materials, Su Ting didn't know how she felt. Lus Hylan and she were both travelers. Now that Lus Hylan's retired son was accused of marrying her, it really made her feel strange. Su Ting can understand why Lus Hylan wants to retire. Just imagine how a woman from modern society, in the world of female ancestors, could accept a marriage contract that she would force her to pass through. After all, there is a great forest waiting for her. It's just that I feel sorry for the Du family. Du Sien, the name sounds nice. Su Ting thought. The author has something to say. After the exam is over, I will update when I have time. Thanks to the little angel who voted for me during the period 2019120621:25:15 2019121520:44:57. Thanks to the little angel who irrigated the nutrient solution, 11 bottles of Wangxian's petition. Thank you very much for your support. I will continue to work hard. Although the emperor gave the marriage, but in the town's palace and the Du's family, the 3 media and 6 hires are indispensable. Han Ji handles these matters personally. He has only a daughter, and this is a prostitute in the prince's mansion. Of course, the marriage can't be unsightly. Where's Ting'er? Where did she go in the morning? Mian, are the gifts ready? The matchmaker invited by Han Ji is one of the highest standards in the capital. His surname is Lu. He was in the palace when he was first emperor, and he became a matchmaker when he was released from the palace. Because he had contact with many lords when he was in the palace, so Gao the mansion is willing to ask him as a matchmaker. For the marriage between the royal daughter of the royal palace and the son of Du Fu, Lu Meigong did not hesitate to turn down several commissions. This is the marriage of the sage, and if this match is done, his grade in the capital must be No. 1. If you are an enemy, no one will dare to grab business with him in the future. Therefore, Mr. Lu Meigong is concerned about the marriage of the palace in the town. Back to the lord, I heard from the concierge that the world's daughter went out early this morning. She still rode on the Black Wind. Black Wind is Su Ting's horse. Su Ting rides on the grassland by himself. It is very wild. No one except Su Ting is allowed to ride it. Su Ting's mother, Wang Suxun, Wang Suan, wants to give it a try. The result was stunned by the Black Wind, really embarrassed. Su Ting came back as soon as she said. She was relieved to see that Han Ji hadn't left yet. Ting'er, what is this carrying? Su Ting, goose. Today is the day when Han Ji and Lu Media agree to accept favors. The woman invites the mediator to the man's home to beg for marriage and asks whether the man is willing to marry the son to the woman. Su Ting and Du Sien are the marriage of the gods. Of course, there is no such thing as disagreeing to ask for marriage, but this step is still indispensable. In addition to some customary gifts, a pair of live geese is indispensable for the gifts that Nake needs to prepare. The big geese are extremely loyal to their partners. Once one dies, the remaining one will not live alone. It will follow death. Therefore, the wild goose is used to symbolize the loyalty of love. Han Ji had already prepared what Nake needed, but for some reason, Su Ting suddenly rode out of the city gate on a whim this morning, and went to the outskirts to beat a pair of live geese. There was still the damp of morning dew on the ends of her clothes and hair. Han Ji looked funny. Her daughter is usually calm, but she still feels less steadfast in the face of marrying her husband. Go, take the pair of living geese that the world's daughter personally hit back, and replace the pair on the carriage. Han Ji teased his daughter. Yes, Han Ji's personal servant, Xiao Mian, was short and took the live goose from Su Ting's hand with a smile. In the face of her father's teasing, Su Ting didn't blush at all, and was very confident. For the first time in 2 lifetimes to get married, shouldn't she get excited? Daddy, my daughter is on a job at the inspector. Hanji, go, go. Please visit Master Lu in person. Master Lu happily took the courtesy of the town's palace to Du mansion to propose marriage. Master Liu's festive and enchanting figure swayed around the gate of Du house. The marriage of the daughter of the town's palace and the son of Du's official department, it was completely fulfilled in the eyes of every family in the entire capital. This marriage was bestowed by the sage, and Nake couldn't just walk through the scene. Lu Meigong worked very hard and said festive words basket by basket, but Bai Fang's smile was fake. Just the customary rituals meant by Nake can tell that the town's royal mansion values the marriage of the only concubine, and these all fall into the hands of Du Xian's little hoof. The better Du Xian is, the more jealous Bai Fang will be. Blood. Du Xian copied the Buddhist scriptures in the yard, preparing to give the Queen Mother a show of filial piety. Chan'er suddenly trod in and said happily, "The sun! The sun! The matchmaker from the town's palace is here, it's the matchmaker Lu." Du Xian paused suddenly, and the brush in his hand dripped a drop of thick ink on the beautiful paper. Shuki, who was waiting next to him, immediately said with a smile, "Congratulations, son. Cicada is illiterate." Shukin and Shuki came from the Queen's palace and both have talents. Among them, Shuki is stronger. Du Xian let him wait in the study room. Shukin is in charge of the other servants in the courtyard. Let Chan'er come for personal work, lest he think too much. Du Xian put aside the pen, ordered Shuki to dispose of the stained paper, and walked out a little anxiously. "Uncle Qing." And Qing ordered the young man who carried the gift to retreat, and smiled kindly and said to Du Xian, "Master, come and see the pair of living geese." Du Xian gently stroked the feathers of the live goose, his face turned reddish, and he knew best what the wild goose symbolized. Uncle Qing said so, "What is special about this pair of living geese?" At this time, the Shuki and Shukin who had handled the dirty paper were also brought in. And Qing had a lot of knowledge and said with a smile, "This pair of living geese, I'm afraid the world's daughter personally played." Du Xian paused with his hand, not knowing what it felt like. He was shy and sweet. Shuki hurriedly asked, "Uncle Qing, what do you say?" "And Qing, Nacai needs a pair of live geese as a gift. If an ordinary woman has the ability to fight, she usually asks the guards at home to fight, or buy it from the hunter. The geese can't die, they can only use their bows and arrows to aim at the wings of the big geese, but because bloodshed is unlucky, people will raise the goose for a few days before sending it to the man's house. It's just that such a goose is not energetic, its wings will droop and it will not fly." And Qing pointed to the red ribbon that tied the wings of the big geese and said, "Look here, this pair of big geese was specially in this way for fear that they would fly away. There is a panic in the big geese's eyes. I am afraid they were just beaten this morning. No injury. When it comes to the wings, it shows that the goose is not using a bow and arrow. It should be used to wrap the stone and hit the pockmark on the goose, causing the goose to fall from the sky. It's said that the world's female kung fu is high and strong. With such an ability, besides our girl personally fight, who else can there be?" Du Xian's heart became warmer. And Qing's words successfully pacified the hesitation in his heart since receiving the imperial decree of marriage. Since the world's daughter will go to fight the wild goose herself, it means that the world's daughter still values him. Is the world's daughter expecting him too? Just like he was expecting a world daughter. "Shukin, take them out and cut their wings, and keep them well." Seeing his master's happiness, Shukin was also very happy, and smiled and took the pair of wild geese and said, "Yes. My son, after Nake, I will ask for your name. I'm afraid Lord Han from the town's palace will come to see you in person that day. You must behave well." Du Xian, "Uncle Qing, don't worry, I will." And Qing happily went to do other things. Back in the study, Du Xian was completely lost in the mood of copying the Buddhist scriptures, as if he had a rabbit in his arms, completely unable to calm down. He simply left the desk and took out the needle and thread basket. He wanted to make a sachet for the world's daughter. If Lord Han liked him the day he asked for his name, maybe he could still give the sachet to Lord Han and let him bring it to the world. Female. The courtyards of the Zhenbian Wangfu and Duxian are both happy, but Lufu is completely different. Today, Lu's Hylan ate at young Master Mo again, and when he returned home, he was scolded by the lord of the Lu mansion, Wei Rongrui, for not knowing the pearl, and leaving Duxian's relatives, so that she could watch her beloved son-in-law about to be taken. The girl from another house has returned home. Cursing, Wei Rongrui also shed tears, and looked at the daughter who was not going to the road, even more angry. Lu's Hylan pulled out his ears, helped Wei Rongrui sit down, and comforted him, "Daddy, just take a break. My daughter really doesn't like Jiao Didi's son. People will soon marry the world's daughter, which is not good. I like young Master Mo, and they also want to marry De Yan's hero. He has the best of both worlds. In my opinion, this marriage is the only way to retreat. Don't be angry and frustrate yourself. The author has something to say. Many knowledge-checking betas will modify the plot for the sake of the plot. Don't be true. Thank you for voting for me during 2019121520:44:57 2019121720:14:41 or the little angel who irrigates the nutrient solution. Thanks to the little angel who irrigated the nutrient solution, 6 bottles of 33xi, thank you very much for your support. I will continue to work hard. After hitting 2 live geese on a whim, Su Ting ignored his marriage, and went to work every day. There are too many complicated procedures before welcoming her to her. So when Han Ji gave Su Ting a sachet a few days later, she was very surprised and felt in a trance. It seemed that she finally confirmed that the fiancé who she had never met was real and would give it to her. Embroidered sachet. Nice guy, I still like my father. Han Ji smiled lightly, and the lines around his eyes made him mature and charming. Orange. He does not deny that at the beginning, he was a little dissatisfied with this son-in-law who had been married once, but after seeing someone, by observing the other's appearance, Han Ji also had to nod his head in approval. Outstanding appearance is not the kind of non-motivated look of Humiizi. He knows how to be polite, knows how to speak, and has a temperament in conversation. He can't make any mistakes at all, and his heart is toward his daughter. Han Ji is most satisfied. I'm afraid that the other party is still thinking about the woman of the previous marriage contract. It can be said that in this short meeting, Du Xian successfully conquered Han Ji, and it was worthwhile for him to do his best. Tomorrow, Dad will go to Jinming Temple to help you with the Beizi, and the Beizi will be auspiciously about to be hired. By the way, please let the master point out a good day to welcome you. Su Ting, Daddy has kissed me hard. If it weren't for the family's noble ladies, Su Ting wouldn't even know how to hang the jade pendant. It would be very inconvenient to fight. But today Su Ting actually hung a sachet. In order to make it easy to wear, Du Xian specially made the sachet into a suitable size. The cloth between the square inches is also embroidered with 2 vivid swan geese, and the reed and lake are below. It can be seen that Du Xian is really a good-hearted son. Although he hasn't met anyone yet, Su Ting's affection for him has increased again. Everyone says that martial arts are rude, but the truth is that there is no shortage of bold and careful women. Su Jin is the daughter of Uncle Anding, a family of military commanders, who is also in charge of the inspection department. After Su Ting came, she became her boss. She was dissatisfied with Su Ting and provoked Su Ting as soon as she came. Su Ting pressed her on the ground and rubbed it for a while. Su Ting was the newly appointed commander. She played well with both grace and power. After using Su Jin to kill the chickens and curse the monkeys, she agreed to invite the whole company to dinner, so that the group of people were cleaned up. The ladies were not polite to her, and immediately ordered Yun Changju, the most expensive in Beijing. For the lively atmosphere, Su Ting specially booked a large box, which can hold 2 tables of wine and food. Yo! This is from Mr. Du. Su Jin joked Su Ting with winking eyebrows. Everyone looked at the conspicuous sachet on Su Ting's waist, and they could smell a faint fragrance of flowers. How could they not understand? Make a roar. Su Ting was always in the crowd, and he was not shy at all. Everyone thought it was boring. They couldn't see her changing face, and he was very unwilling. He even tried to make fun of you and me. I heard that Mr. Du's name is exquisite, and the commander is blessed. I don't know if I will be on the job and forget it. Ha 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 ha. Hey, what are you saying? I believe our command will not be so intoxicated by the gentle village, right? That can't be said. Du's son is so beautiful. I'm afraid I haven't seen this kind of capital son in the frontier. I'm afraid. Ha 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 ha. We must go to the bridal chamber on the day of Sister Sue's worship. Drinking these 2 or 2 rice wines, the more you talk about it, the more out of it. Su Ting ignored them, squeezing the wine glass while listening to the ridicule. Drinking, any group of people became more upset. Hey! I don't understand. What are you saying that Miss Liu Jia is thinking? Don't let Du Gongzi with such good conditions go, but want to chase the ugly man of Mo family. Everyone is blind when they are blind, how else can it be cheaper, don't we command? Ms. Mo's face, I can't give it to me, Miss Liu is courageous. Maybe Miss Liu didn't look at her face? You don't look at the Mo family's style. In the backyard of this shameless mansion in the capital, which house does not have a servant from the Mo family? The drunk woman in this world is similar to the man who was full of flowers in front of her brothers in the previous life. Su Ting frowned, and when he was about to knock his glass to stop, the door of the box was suddenly pushed open angrily. The people in the entire box were all martial artists, and their lazy attitude suddenly became fierce. Some people had already grasped the hilt of the knife instantly, and when they looked outside the door, it turned out to be Liu's Hylan. The fierce aura vented in an instant, and it all turned into embarrassment. Everyone was just talking and laughing at the wine table. When they were caught upright, they were very ashamed and shameless. It was Su Jin who reacted quickly and immediately clasped his fists to Liu's Hylan and apologized. I'm sorry, Miss Liu, the sisters are all drunk and have nothing to say. Please forgive me. Su Ting looked at Liu's Hylan. In fact, she didn't know much about Liu's Hylan in modern times. She only knew her name. After all, such a rebellious girl was rare in that circle, except she herself was Liu's Hylan. She went into the army by a woman and Liu's Hylan grabbed the property from the business and raised her little white face at will. She didn't know which one challenged the bottom line of those old antiques. Hey! Liu's Hylan smiled mockingly, isn't it too bold for a few people who slander me in my shop? Are you not thinking about martial arts like this vulgarity? The patrol department's people were guilty at first, but after being scolded by Liu's Hylan, they didn't change their temper. The military commander's temper was already violent. What's more, in their opinion, except for the last slur of the backyard that Lao Zhou said, it was too much. Besides, the others are just telling the truth. Master Du is good-looking, Master Mo is ugly, and ugliness is a fact. Besides, they just talked in private, and didn't run to Master Mo to say that the ghost knew that Liu's Hylan would hear it next door. Liu's Hylan could not be angry. She finally asked Mo Ziyan out to eat, but she heard these rough women slander Ziyan next door. Ziyan looked strong, but these vicious words would still hurt him like a sharp knife. How could she let these ancient, ignorant and rude women hurt the people she vowed to protect? I want you to apologize to Master Mo, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. You. At this moment Mo Ziyan also came out of the next room, and said to Liu's Hylan in a deep voice, Miss Liu, forget it. Seeing Mo Ziyan, Su Ting knew why Liu's Hylan was obsessed with him. Mo Ziyan was completely tough and handsome. His height was comparable to Liu's Hylan himself, and his skin was dark and wheatish. Such a look is a handsome guy in the eyes of modern aesthetic Liu's Hylan. It is not an exaggeration to put it on the catwalk. If you add that Lu's Hylan likes this one and cannot appreciate the feminine style of the world, it's not difficult to understand that Mozian is so shocked as a man. It is not easy to find a man who fits the aesthetics of modern male gods in this female deity world. Su Ting stretched out his hand to block colleagues who wanted to get angry, walked out and said to Lu's Hylan and Mozian, "Miss Lu, Master Mo, we were wrong just now. Please forgive me for the wrong words. It's just a joke after drinking, the world's daughter needn't worry about it." Mozian wanted to calm down the situation, but Lu's Hylan was unwilling. She looked at Su Ting and said maliciously, "The prince of the town. That's the end? Wouldn't it be possible for me to make a rumor about Mr. Du and say sorry to the world woman? In any case, Mr. Du once had a marriage contract with Li Xia. Mr. Du is beautiful, why should he resign? If I say anything from my mouth, everyone will believe it. The author has something to say, update." Boom! The sudden sound shocked Lu's Hylan, who was aggressive, and his whole body was vented. He looked back reflexively and found that the original open door of the box had been closed by Su Ting's internal force, blocking possible prying eyes. Lu's Hylan's back suddenly burst into cold sweat, and then I remembered Su Ting Qiankai's ability to take the enemy city straight. The martial artist was irritable by nature, like a powerful firecracker. If Su Ting suddenly attacked her, wouldn't she be at a disadvantage? Su Ting had to close the door. If Lu's Hylan really said any foul language, she had to make sure that she would not be able to pass this box. Du Xian was her fiancé. She didn't care about the rumors before, but now she is here, she will not. Artificial rumors are allowed. Su Ting originally had some fellowship with Lu's Hylan, and she also had some appreciation for her as a woman who dared to challenge the tradition, but now, all these have turned into disgust. Lu's Hylan herself is also a woman in a society left behind by patriarchy. How could she not understand the difficulties of men in this female-respected world? Now that she knows, she can still say such things. The weak becomes the strong. Instead of pitying and protecting the weak, she borrows after good luck. He turned himself into the master and harmed the other party unscrupulously, just like a villain gaining power. Su Ting was very disappointed with Lu's Hylan. "Miss Lu," Su Ting withdrew her hand from the internal force, and looked at Lu's Hylan indifferently. "Do you know that Mr. Du in your mouth is my Su Ting's fiancé? How dare you say it again? Who is Su Ting? She is the princely daughter of the Zhenbian Wangfu. Compared with her mother Su Suan, she is even more blue. She is the noble daughter who must inherit the Zhenbian Wangju. The king of Zhenbian is the only king of the opposite in Dian today, and he shoulders the safety of Dian's mountains and mountains. Lu's Hylan's mother is only a second-class scholar. Even if the Zhenbian palace is being jealous by the emperor, it is not a second-class scholar who can offend him. Besides, Lu's Hylan himself has no official position, just a commoner. And Su Ting, who is already the commander of the patrol department, gave Lu's Hylan the confidence to make her protest in front of Su Ting, based on her modern superiority. At this moment, Lu's Hylan was already sensible. She did not dare to face Su Ting's threat, but she already remembered Su Ting in her heart. It is never too late for a gentleman to avenge him. Regarding countless traversers, few were powerful at the beginning, but later they didn't slap their faces. She endures. What about the king of town? The Su family is already intolerant of the emperor, so I will see the day when her mansion is overturned, and I will definitely fight for the top of tens of thousands. Lu's Hylan convinced herself with a calm face. Mozian is not an ordinary man. He has been in business as a man, and he has long developed a seven-orifice exquisite heart. When Su Ting waved his hand to close the door, Mozian was surprised, not scared, but surprised at Su Ting's gentleness towards a man as a big woman dancing with swords and guns. Before Lu's Hylan could say anything, Su Ting had promised that no matter whether Lu's Hylan said or not, he would not spread it out and ruin Du Xian's reputation. When Mo Xian met Luz Hylan, he already felt that he had met the most rare woman in the world, but he didn't expect that there would be Su Ting. The world's daughter has already apologized, so Miss Lu will turn her fight into a jade silk. Mo Xian cleverly found Luz Hylan down the stairs. You are all big women, I hope you will not be so unkind and make fun of men by sarcasm and slander. Luz Hylan took Mo Xian and left the box, and this meal had been disturbed. The few women in the room who were already grumpy were indignant. If it hadn't been for Su Jin, they would have liked to go up and teach Luz Hylan personally. Her grandfather's legs, she thought she was so great. Su Jin sneered and said, you are still eating in other people's restaurants, isn't it amazing? What is it? What's wrong with the restaurant? It's expensive and not tasty, and it's a waste of money. Su Ting squeezed his wine glass, drank the half glass of wine, knocked it on the table, and said, since it's disturbing the interest, let's forget it today. I will find time to set up 2 tables for everyone another day. Others shouted happily, we still have the grandeur of our daughter. Su Ting turned around and faced them, however, Luz Hylan said that one sentence is correct. A big woman who made fun of a man is indeed demeaning. The people who had already drunk their minds now remembered that no matter how many years older Su Ting gave them, Su Ting was still their superior. And their performance just now at the wine table is already out of bounds. A group of people later realized that they were a little bit ashamed and panic. The commander is right. Our officials can't be the same as those wicked women in the market. They should have demeanor. The combination of Su Ting and Du Xian's horoscope is very smooth, and the master Nanwu of Jinming Temple can't wait to say that the two are gifted by heaven and created by nature. After all, this marriage was personally referred to by the current sage, even a master. I'm afraid it's not bad at all. Sovereign Han intellectually knew that Master Nanwu must be saying good things. When he waited for the comments to come out, he was still very happy. He offered a lot of sesame oil money and asked Master Nanwu to choose a good day. He chose August 2nd. I am going to discuss with Du Fu this day. It's the end of late June, July and September are not available, and October is too late. After all, August is the most suitable. As soon as Han Ji came back from Jinming Temple, Su Ting and Du Xian's remarks about the marriage of Tiancheng have spread throughout the capital. On the first day of July, Lu Meigong took a gift to the Du mansion to make appointments, and after that, the betrothal gift was sent to the Du mansion, and Du Xian's dowry was also paid for. Du Xian took the dowry list sent by Bai Feng, frowning and tightening, Uncle Qing, come and see this. And Qing took the dowry list that Du Xian handed over. The list was a few discounts, and it looked very substantial. The flowers are beautiful, but they are all pretty. And Qing said in disgust. The night pearl, the red coral screen, the large emerald ornaments, and the shop in the dowry of Princess Minjia were not on it. This Bai Feng is too deceiving. But no, those good things that came out of the palace. As soon as Bai Feng was helped to become the lord and took the key to the warehouse of Du Mansion, he couldn't wait to move to his yard. His eyes were vain and short, and he was not afraid of others reading jokes. When a man gets married, his dowry is his own. If his wife's family moves, they will be looked down upon and regarded as a waste of the husband's support. These dowries must be reserved for his son in the future, and Bai Feng even took away all Yan Qiu's dowry. The things Anqing ordered were the things that the Queen Mother and concubine Mei gave to Du Xian's father Min Jiaqing in full view. Bai Feng was so courageous that these things would not be included in Du Xian's dowry. Uncle Qing, can you please ask the Queen Mother for a dowry list from your father's marriage? And Qing was overjoyed, and Du Xian knew how to fight, and said quickly, okay, the old slave will go now. He is about to get married, and the water thrown out by his married son no longer needs to ask for a living under Bai Feng's hands, so he will save Bai Feng any face. He must get all his father's dowry. Du Xian thought. The author has something to say, I like this link the most, and the dowry must be collected. In Bai Fang's heart, the dowry given to Du Xian was already his blood. If Du Xian was not given the marriage, he had to marry into the Zhenbian palace in full view, but to marry any daughter, even the 10th of the dowry, he will not give one. The good things in Du Mansion are for his son Miaoyan, Du Xian's son. Why should he fight with his Miaoyan? Knowing that there is nothing good about fighting with the cheeky Bai Fang, it is easy to provoke a sorrow. Du Xian went directly over Bai Fang to find Du Gan. For so many years under Bai Fang's self-protection, those methods are not unfamiliar to Du Xian. On the contrary, he is still very skilled. These skills are the basis for a man to live well in the back house, and he has to know it. Du Xian put a little juice on his hand and rubbed his eyes, and then blocked her back under Du Gan. Mother! As soon as Du Gan came back, he saw his long-neglected son looking at him with red eyes, as if he had suffered some great grievances and wanted to ask his mother for protection. For a while, Du Gan couldn't help but soften. She may not like Yan Qiu, but what Du Xian said is her son. Now this son is about to get married and leave home, and there is still some feeling of cherishment. What's the matter? You are almost married, and you are embroidering your wedding dress not happily. Why are you crying? Of course, Du Xian saw Du Gan's soft-heartedness, and immediately struck the iron while it was hot. 2 drops of tears flowed out of his eyes. He knelt in front of Du Gan and said sadly, "Mother, I beg you to leave your father's things to the child. Father, go early. Xian married someone, and only these thoughts are left." Du Gan frowned and asked distressedly, "What is going on?" Du Xian said so vaguely, he certainly would not personally accuse Bai Fang. Bai Fang's weight in Du Gan's heart is far greater than him, he can't find himself uncomfortable. The specific content is appropriate for others. Soan King Ai, who is next to Du Xian, said righteously, "Master Du, the father of the son, Min Jiaking, has something in the dowry that the entire capital knows. These are all left to the son by Min Jiaking. But you see, in the dowry list that Lord Bai brought, there was nothing from Lord Min Jiaking." Du Gan took the list and took a look. She didn't know exactly how much Min Jiaking's dowry was, but she was impressed even if she just glanced at the rare treasures in it. What's more, she can't understand the flowery pearl hairpin jewelry on the dowry, but the shop is too high on the table. If these dowries are taken to the town's palace, wouldn't it make the dignified mansion completely lost? The whole capital watched the marriage of the town's palace and Du's palace. Even if the dowry of the town's palace was not as good as the wedding ceremony of the town's palace, it was not inferior. Du Gan suddenly became angry. He knew that Bai Fang was from a low birth and had not read any books, but he did not expect that his eyesight was so short-sighted. Du Gan darkened his face, took the list in his hand, and said to Du Xian, "Don't cry, my mother will decide this matter for you." Speaking of Du Gan, he went straight to Bai Fang's yard with a black face. Du Xian wiped a tear from his eyes, looked at each other with Ching, and followed Du Gan step by step. Bai Fang heard the little waiter inform Du Gan that he was coming into the yard, and hurried out to greet him, and said softly, "The wife's master is back." Unexpectedly, Du Gan directly threw the list on him and scolded, "This is how you are in your home." Bai Fang's heart jumped and his eyes flushed immediately. He knew that no matter what happened, this trick worked best. "What's wrong? What did I do wrong? Tell my wife to scold me like this as soon as he comes back." Chu Chu was pitiful like a white camellia trembling in the wind and rain. Du Gan inevitably softened his heart to Bai Fang again, and even his anger was relieved. "You did a dowry for Xian. There is something that fits the Du Fu's face and Xian's father's relatives. Why don't you put them in the dowry? Do you want me to be laughed at by the civil and military Manchuria?" Bai Fang was frightened. He knew that Du Gan started at the end of his life. He wanted the most face, and most of the nobles ridiculed Du Fu's lack of family heritage and rules. Du Xian's dowry did not contain the mastermind of Min Jiaking, which is bound to make people maliciously spread that Du Fu is poor. Even the man's dowry moved. It was a shame in Du Gan's heart that she was forced to Shang King Zua back then, and she would never have been able to bear this. Looking at the dowry list that fell on the ground, and seeing Du Xian with his head hanging behind him, Bai Fang couldn't wait to tear this cheap hoof directly to pieces. Knowing that it is impossible to quibble now, Bai Fang can only advance with retreat, crying to Du Gan and said, "I know I have a bad background. Unlike Brother Xiu, who has read many books, he can do everything well. It is also the first time that I have done such a big business. Suddenly my family has to take out such a large amount of dowry. If Xian is unsatisfied, just tell me, why bother to your mother and make her angry? Don't worry, my wife, I will prepare the dowry for Xian again and it will be done." Du Gan's face really calmed down. Du Xian must not let this matter be dealt with by Bai Fang like this, and gave Anqing a sign. Anqing immediately said, "Don't bother the Lord Bai to work so hard. The dowry of the son's father and the master Min Jiaking is the Queen Mother and Tai Jun Mei. The ones that were added together were completely comparable to the bride price of the town's palace, and would not lose face to Du house. Lord White only needs to open the storeroom and order Min Jiaking's dowry. If there are too many things to order, I have here the dowry list of the master Min Jiaking sent by the Queen Mother." The Queen Mother said that he would send someone to add makeup to the son, and then he would personally check the son's dowry list to see if there is anything missing. Bai Fang's face suddenly turned blue, and the Queen Mother was staring at him. Doesn't he have to spit out what he ate? How willing he is! Father Xian's relatives were originally meant to be given to him. Our Du mansion's dowry is calculated separately. The Wang mansion of the town has a rich family wealth, and our Du mansion can't be inferior too much and lose face. Du Gan looked at Bai Fang and said, "Don't let me down again. Bai Fang is like a thunderstorm, and she can't wait to choke this woman who she has loved for half a lifetime. Yan Qiu's dowry is not enough? Du Fu has to offer his own copy?" Bai Fang's nails pierced deeply into his hands, and squeezed out a voice between his teeth, "I see, my wife." The people in the Queen's palace came to the door the next day. They said that they were afraid that Du mansion would be too busy. The person who was in charge of the dowry of the allergic Jiaking's dowry was sent over to take care of Du Xian's dowry. Bai Fang was urged to seal it up. "I was ready to carry Du Miaoan's dowry and put it in Du Xian's dowry. Du Miaoan is 2 years younger than Du Xian and is already looking at others. He has seen his dowry a long time ago. Now that those things are taken away, he can't help crying and hate Du Xian even more. Yan Qiu's dowry back then, Bai Fang has already used some of it, and he used it to give gifts and exchange money. His eldest daughter, Du Puyu, wants to develop her future. This part can't be found anyway. The other Bai Fang is going to leave his son as a dowry. Now they are forced to take it out one by one. In order to excuse the imperial secretary's dowry, he has to use himself quietly. To subsidize from the treasury, it was heartache to drip. At this time, Du Miaoan wanted to cry with him. Bai Fang became angry and slapped her favorite son directly. They were in a mess, and Du Xian read a good joke. "Tomorrow we will enter the palace and give the Buddhist scriptures to the Queen Mother for blessing." Du Xian smiled and said to Anqing. Anqing was very pleased with Du Xian's filial piety. The author has something to say. During the review, the code is very difficult. When I have a holiday, I will be more literate. So cute.